I wonder what my lady would say. I wonder what my lady would say. I wonder what.
Hello, my name is Malerie. You're watching GCTV. I'm here with Dan Littlefield, who is a high school teacher and a DJ here on the radio. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. What grade or subject do you teach?
I teach 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders at Northampton High School, and I teach history, mostly world history, and a lot of AP government and politics.
How long have you been teaching?
I am in my 6th full-time year. I had like a couple of different like short-term gigs, but I've been a full-time teacher for 5 years now.
Why did you choose to become a teacher?
I chose it very late, and like I didn't even pursue it until I was 30 years old. And in a previous job, I worked in food systems, and I moved food around from food banks and to farms and those kind of things, and I really liked it. But my favorite part of the job was public speaking. I would go to like schools, or I'd go to public libraries and talk to people, and I really like performing and being on stage. So it was like it dawned on me that I could make a career that would pay where I get to perform in front of people.
Did you always think you were going to be a teacher?
Nope. I would say I never really crossed my mind until about 7 years ago.
What do you like most about teaching?
I really like forming relationships with the students, and I don't actually love teaching content like in the classroom when I'm lecturing and stuff like that. It's fun and it's interesting to me because I like history, but I think my favorite thing is more like mentorship, like working with students to like see what they want to make for a project, or like what is interesting to them. I really like having lots of conversations and like having a long-term project. So I really like mentoring students. I think that's really gives me a lot of value, and it's a lot more rewarding than classroom grades and those kind of things.
What is the hardest part of teaching?
The hardest part of teaching, oh man, it's so hard to narrow it down. There's lots of things that are hard. It's really boring and annoying to have to grade and put so much time into grading, which is valuable to the students, but it just takes so much time. So grading, and also just the bureaucracy of school. There's just like a lot of people to answer to, and a lot of changing policies, and the administration is always changing who's a principal or who's superintendent. So there's always like new things to start up with the students, like new programs and new goals. So it's like, I would say like some of the like the administrative stuff is really, it's not fun. Yeah.
What is your favorite memory from teaching?
My favorite memory from teaching. Oh, this is kind of ironic because I don't usually push the college narrative to my students. They get enough of it from every other teacher and their parents usually in Northampton. But I have found that something that I really took so much pride in was there was a student last year who was not interested in going to college, and they were inspired enough to become a history teacher, and it just blew my mind that it was like me and another teacher who had really worked with them a lot. It was just really blew my mind to see the influence that teachers and students have on each other, and like that student is really thriving, and that like really touched my heart. So that's probably one of my favorite memories.
What does a normal day look like for you?
Well, I get at school at 10 minutes before the school bell rings, which makes me feel behind already, so I'm a little stressed out. And then I have 9th graders where I teach them world history, and I am not being sarcastic in this. They're the hardest working, best students on a total in terms of doing work that I've ever had class-wide. So I start my day like really strong with students who are really engaged. And then I have my lunch, and then I have 2 periods of AP government and politics, and by 3:30 I'm ready for a nap. But it goes by actually pretty fast. So and the students make me laugh throughout the whole day, so I'm always like in really good spirits.
How do you get ready for your classes?
Well, we have a designated prep period, so we have like an hour and 16 minutes a day to that's designated time for me to plan things. Sometimes I grade, but usually I'm getting ready for the next day's assignments or the next day lecture content. So it's built into the schedule, but I also work on weekends. I do a lot of grading on Sunday evenings, which isn't ideal, but it has made the job a lot more sustainable to work at home sometimes.
How do you help students who are having trouble learning?
Well, I think it all starts with a relationship. So throughout, even before anyone's struggling, I hope that I've been able to make connections about like their personal interests or get them to laugh, or usually humor is my way of making connections with my students. So I think that if a student's like struggling academically or emotionally, I think they've already seen that like I've already been reaching out and trying to like build a bridge of like showing them that I care about them and I have interest in them. So if there's an issue, those conversations like are easier to roll into, and it feels more natural, as opposed to if I wasn't paying any attention and just was like, hey, what's wrong with you? Like they'd be like, I don't want to talk to you about it. So I just try to build relationships with all my students, no matter how they're doing.
How do you keep your students engaged?
Mostly humor, lots of silly stuff. Like for instance, I sometimes put a QR code on my Google slides that are projected on the wall, and then I'll see them with their phones to like try to look at it, and then I'll say, oh, phone's away, actually, it's a trick. So sometimes I trick them, sometimes I do silly things, like I'll have assignments, or like I started like a pumpkin spice latte club, which is just to be silly, but all my students like post pictures about pumpkin spice lattes, and so a lot of silly stuff. Yeah.
How do you handle students who aren't listening or follow rules?
Not as well as I should. I don't have the strongest backbone when it comes to discipline. Usually though, I've made good relationships with all my students, first of all, ideally. So if they can tell when I'm being silly versus when I'm serious. Doesn't mean they always respond. Like they might be like, oh, Mr. Littlefield's a pushover, so I don't really need to worry about what he's talking about. But for the most part, students will be like, oh, are you serious right now? And I'll say, yeah, I am. Please get back in class, or put your phone away, or whatever you need to do. And for the most part, they listen. But if you just walked into my classroom, it often looks pretty wild in there. It's pretty crazy. But I'm okay with that too.
What do you do when students need extra help?
Well, if they have any like academic support teachers, I talk with their teachers to see how they're doing in all their classes, to try to get like a bigger picture. And then we have a built-in, we call it flex block, where it's like a time where students can get extra help from teachers. So I'll just sign them up to be like, I signed you up for Flex today so we can talk about an assignment or talk about your grades. So we have some of that built in, but I also, again, it's a lot about relationships, where it's just like I need them to feel like they can trust me and that I trust them. So if we've built that, usually it's not so hard, but then we use like those designated times to spend more time on their assignments.
I hear you are a PowerPoint expert. How do you make your PowerPoints fun?
Well, as I said earlier, I add QR codes sometimes. I also will add like jokes, or try to add like puns related to history, so people will be like, is that what I think he's writing up there? Like sometimes I have to second guess what I'm writing, but I can see that they're actually reading it and engaged, so that works. I think also like my PowerPoints, I've really worked on making like themes on them, which are pretty goofy, and like I'll put fake slides on there sometimes. Like I'll put inaccurate information just to see if anyone's paying attention. And so if they are and they laugh, I'm like, okay, you got it. And then if they have the wrong information, I'll be like, oh, actually today we're not covering that. I don't know if you caught that or not. So it's like just a good way to like keep people on their toes. So I trick them a lot. Like it sounds maybe mean, I don't know, or like silly, but like it's like all harmful teasing. Yeah.
What are other ways you make learning fun?
I have a lot of activities that take us out of the classroom, which is fun. It's really nice at our high school. We have a park right across the street from the main entrance. So sometimes we'll do like walks in the park or like talk on the go or have some interviews. And I also have my students often like present a project or a slideshow or something they've made to another class. So we'll like, I'll make arrangements with a teacher prior to that, but we'll go to another classroom and it'll just be a one-on-one little presentation, but it just gets people out of the classroom, and that's just makes students so much more interested than just sitting there all day, every day. So I try to mix it up with like getting out of the classroom and having different project types.
How do you know if students understand what you are teaching?
That's a great question. We in the teaching field, we talk about checks for understanding, like you walk around the room or you look at how students are responding to their questions that you assign them. And I think that gives like a lot of information, but you know, sometimes I can't tell and sometimes I don't give it enough attention. But I think for the most part, I generate enough, like I'll have like small group discussions because my students always sit in table groups. Okay. And a lot of it is just like listening to what words they're using and seeing how much it relates to our material. So a lot of it is just kind of like observing how the students are talking to each other about what we're doing.
What other kinds of technology do you use in your classroom?
Yeah, we use Chromebooks sometimes. The students all are given Chromebooks from the school, so they're available to everyone. So sometimes we'll do things online, like they'll make slideshows and they'll make Google documents and stuff like that. Other than that, though, I'm trying to think of other technologies I've used. We'll also do some games, like I have like a Jeopardy application that like will generate questions, and we'll do that to answer in teams, so it's kind of fun. I also like design these like trivia night events where like in the background I'll even put on some like cafe talking and chatter, so it sounds like they're like really in a different place, and I get them excited about like forming teams and team names, so they have like a little more buy-in. I don't know about other technology though. I'm trying to think if there's other stuff. There's like mostly either through the computer or through walking around the room. Yeah.
Has ChatGPT and other AI tools changed the way you teach and students learn?
They definitely have affected the way students learn. This year I'm really learning about how I can change my activities or change my approach to address ChatGPT, because a lot of the concerns are cheating if students are not doing the thinking themselves but using ChatGPT to like make their projects for them or their written materials. So I think that I'm kind of taking like a math classroom approach where I'll say you have to show me your thinking. Because in math, usually it's like if it's an equation, like you don't just give the answer, you also show how you got there. And so I'm trying to do that where I'll say like you have to explain the steps you took of how you got to these ideas. So it's not foolproof, and people use AI a lot. And at first, last year, I was a little more open to AI use. Like I thought it was kind of creative of the students. And this year, I have found that I think the way that students often use ChatGPT in my classroom is where all the thinking happens. They'll ask ChatGPT to say like, can you give me a list of topics, or like, can you like format or outline a paper for me? And I'm just like, I think that's the hardest work, where I want students to be thinking about that. So I'm really trying to design ways to not have ChatGPT as useful to the students. So if they have to explain what they were doing, it's harder to use ChatGPT.
How has teaching changed since COVID?
I would say, I think, at least in our school, I think we've become a lot more lenient, where like before COVID, students would get in trouble for skipping class or being on their phones or doing all the crazy things they do. And now we're kind of like, don't do that again. We really mean it, without any consequence. Like we rarely have detentions or anything like that, which I don't know. I used to think like that's a nice approach. Now over time I'm kind of like, oh, these students are like yeah, they're going to keep doing these things because they don't get in trouble. And it's like, I would have done the same thing. I totally understand. And I'm not saying I want to be stricter, but I do think that teachers in general have been like a little more cautious with students. Like we're more concerned about upsetting students and more concerned about making sure students are like supported emotionally, which is probably a good thing, but I think we're also like a little too easy on them sometimes. But I can't believe I'm saying it. The high schooler in me would be so mad at a teacher to say that. I would be like, you should let me do whatever I want. So as a teacher, I have to balance those ideas. But I think we're a little easier on them now.
What did you learn from teaching during that time?
During COVID, I learned I learned more about students' lives outside of school because for some, like, it was very strange, and I think honestly like a little creepy that we asked students to like show like Zoom meetings from within their house, because I was like, I don't want to see your personal room while I'm teaching. Like seemed like a little bit of an invasion, but it also was eye-opening where students will sometimes have like their parents walk across the room in Zoom or something, and I think it really helped me understand students more as full people than just students, like jobs and sports and their responsibilities to their family. So I think I gained a lot of respect for my students.
Are standards of teaching always changing?
No, I don't think standards for teaching are, well, the standards that we teach, like the content of what I should teach my students, that doesn't change a whole lot year to year, but there's always new trainings and there's always kind of like new ideas about what is a good practice of how to teach, like how to set up your classroom or how to organize the agenda or how to lecture or how to make activities. Those things are always changing, which I'm appreciative of. Like, I actually think it's helpful because it keeps me on my toes instead of just setting it up and never trying again. So it keeps me really engaged, actually. But yeah, it changes a lot.
How do you keep up with new standards?
I don't know if I always do, but I try. We have a lot of professional development trainings where we'll spend a whole day as teachers being trained on what we should be doing in the classroom, and I take notes on it, and I always try to implement it, and usually it's like some of it I like, some of it I don't, because we all have our own styles of teaching, it's, even though the professional development days are usually pretty boring, to be really honest, is like, I'm really grateful that I am in a job that continually trains us. So like we don't get stale and we have new methods all the time. So although it's in a meeting, I'll probably be rolling my eyes trying not to fall asleep. It's like, I'm glad that it can change all the time.
How do you learn new things about teaching?
Well, yeah, like I was just saying, those professional development days, and I've done a couple trainings over the summer on my own initiative, but I have a little kid and I don't know. If the school pays for it, I'll do it.
Do you work with other teachers to plan lessons?
Sometimes. Not in our school, we don't have a very collaborative culture. Like, teachers don't really have built-in time or aren't really encouraged to work with each other all that much. But I have a couple of projects that, like, I was just talking to an English teacher today that I want to do a project between our two classes. So I do it sometimes. I really enjoy it, and it makes it a little more exciting for the kids and for me to just change up our day-to-day routine.
Why did you decide to work in a public school opposed to working in private or charter school?
Yeah, that's a great question. I went to public school, and I'll be so bold to say that as strange as the politics in our country is in a lot of ways, I think public education is one of the more beautiful socialized institutions we have, and I think it's just really nice that in theory, everybody has access to go there, and I am so grateful that I work at a place where I see a variety of students of diversity in terms of race and religion and mental abilities and disabilities and neurological differences, where I am just so grateful that all these people can be here. I think it's really, as opposed to a lot of public schools don't always support diverse needs because they don't have to. And I would rather be in an environment that like reflects the community I live in than like one population. So I really like public school because in theory everybody has access. It doesn't always happen, but that's the goal.
What advice would you give someone who wants to be a teacher?
If someone wants to be a teacher, I would say if you can invent a time machine so you can skip your first year, try to do it because the first year is so hard. But other than that, it's very rewarding. I know a lot of people like to gripe about the pay, and I don't know where all those people come from, but I make more money than both of my parents combined ever made. I think it's a great job. You get summers off. You get school vacations, you get earned time, you get paid sick time, and you get to work with really, really silly, weirdo children that like make you laugh all day. So it's pretty nice.
What do you hope your students learn from you?
I hope that they learn from me. I hope that they, in my school in particular, in Northampton, I hope my students can walk away from me putting a little distance between the importance of college and their real lives, because the narrative in Northampton is very college focused, and I like to really be like, yes, college is important, however many other things are important, and if you're not going to college, that is totally fine, and there are many options. So I don't hear that message from other teachers or from the community there, and I think it really, really puts a lot of pressure and creates a lot of stigma around the students who are not going to college or are only going to a 2-year college or a state college. And that narrative frankly really makes me sick, and I want all students to feel like whatever they're aspiring to is success and is awesome. So I really hope they learn from me that there's like that college isn't the end all be all.
I understand you are also a DJ here at the GCTV radio station. Can you tell me about your show and what you enjoy about it?
Yes, I can. I love the show because for me it gives me like at least 1 hour of a creative outlet every week, where from Mondays from 5 to 6, I have the show Voyager 3, and I'm live on Mondays, and I just really, really love that I have an excuse to buy more records. I have an excuse to be very silly on live radio, and like it keeps me exploring new music. I've involved my kid a little bit in it, and that's nice. He has like a segment on there. So it's just like a nice place for me to feel like I have a creative outlet besides making PowerPoints all the time.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
I'm just grateful to be here, and I think it's awesome that you do interviews, and also, I'm curious, who's the next person you're interviewing? Do you know?
I'm not sure. Bella keeps track of that.
Oh, yeah. Well, thank you for having me. I don't have anything else to add. Sorry, I wish I had some more wisdom for everybody.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. And thanks for watching GCTV. See you next time.